Hey, what's up, guys? Nate here. Welcome back to the channel. So this weekend I was feeling pretty inspired to do some music, and I've been wanting to kind of get into doing more breakbeat stuff, new school breaks and big beat stuff. When I started out writing music, some of my biggest influences were guys like Orbital, The Crystal Method, Prodigy, Chemical Brothers, that kind of stuff. And I've kind of dabbled in it over the years. It's kind of what I started producing before I kind of moved on to psytrance and trance and a whole bunch of other genres along the way. But yeah, I've been messing around a little bit, and I figured this would actually be the perfect opportunity to submit something for the Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty update, the Growl FM music competition that they have going. So yeah, let's take a listen to the full track, and then I figured I'd do a little walkthrough, kind of the thinking behind the track, and go through some of the plugins I used and some of the tips and tricks behind putting this together. We'll take a look at the project files and run through the whole thing. Cool, so let me play the track and I'll catch you in a sec. Right, so I've got the Bitwig project up here. So first off, just before I get into the actual parts of the track, this could be a little bit more organized. Some of the namings and stuff hasn't been done. But anyways, well, just first off, I did listen to some of the other submissions, and there's some great stuff out there that's been posted to YouTube, but a lot of them seem to miss the point for me. When you are writing to a brief, you've got to think about, how's this going to work? How does it fit into the brief and so on? Some of them sounded a little bit too cinematic. This is a track for a radio station, so it needs to be a song that can be played on the radio. I wanted it to be futuristic, obviously to fit into the whole cyberpunk theme, so sort of lots of sort of dubsteppy kind of elements in places, very electronic, but at the same time, I wanted to have a grunginess, so a lot of the sort of percussion is inspired by sort of old school hip-hop beats. It's an urban environment. I wanted to kind of reflect that in some of the production as well. So it's got that sort of very tape-driven hip-hop sort of style drums with a bit of shuffle on it. And then obviously the rap vocal pulled from Splice. That was chosen more just as a sort of rhythmical element rather than trying to find something that was lyrically appropriate, but it all kind of fitted in pretty well for me at the end of the day. Yeah, so that was the idea, to create something inspired by sort of my heroes like the Crystal Method, that grunginess to the percussion and overall tone, but still super electronic, super futuristic kind of vibe that would be played on a radio station. So yeah, I think this fits the brief fairly well, to my mind at least. Cool, so let's dive into the actual track. I'm going to take a look at the drums first. There's nothing incredibly special going on here. There's a couple of loops that I brought in and some that I made myself. The kick drum and the snare drum and this hi-hat were all programmed manually using the Bitwig drum machine, and then bounced some of the stuff and then separated them out. You'll see like the kick channel here has got a number of plugs on it. The Drummer S73 multiband compressor. Just solo these actually and play these back. So super simple this. The Drummer compressor just really making it kind of punchy, a little bit of EQ, just in the lows I think, just also bringing out a little bit of the punch. This is the Citral 295 from Arturia. And then Shaper Box, I'm using Shaper Box to trim the kick down, so it really just needs that attack. There's quite a lot of sub that comes in underneath the kick, which I will check out in a sec with this as well. In actual fact, let's just take a look at the sub as well, because it's kind of relevant to what's going on here. So the kick's very kind of just attack heavy. The sub is sidechained to that as well and makes up the low end. And the sub has also got a bit of pitch, sort of pitch envelope in the beginning. So it kind of sounds a bit like an 808. However, it doesn't come from an 808. That is Repro 1. And that is running through the Tube Culture from Arturia, as well as Kirchhoff EQ. And again, the Drummer S73. This punch algorithm, or this punch preset in this, really has a nice kind of thwack to it. Back without this. Just kind of focuses a lot of these sort of bass frequency higher up. And then obviously this one is sidechained to this one. So the kick fitting in here and then cutting out the attack of the kick out of these subs. Same goes for the snare. This one's got just a little bit of EQ to brighten up some of the tops on it. There was some additional processing in here. A little bit of compression from the VSC2 Vertigo. But I think I actually compressed this further with the Mic E distressor plugin from Softtube. This thing's amazing on drums. Just makes everything super loud. It kind of saturates it as well. So there's a little bit of latency with this because of some of the processing, so it seems like it's a little bit out of sync, but that is the snare that we're listening to there. So you can see I'm driving the inputs quite hard on this Mic E, which kind of tends to distort things a little bit, but in a really pleasing way, and then a little bit of compression from that on as well. Then we come to this live break, which kind of makes up a lot of the background of this loop. So this I programmed myself from I believe it's the Abbey Road modern drums. A lot of this bounced down to audio, especially when I'm working on stuff where I'm doing cut-ups like this. I tend to bounce everything down. Actually, we can check in here. So this is, so the Abbey Road modern drummer, and that is running through a 1176 from Arturia. I didn't really EQ much of this. It didn't really need it. I think I had an EQ on here that I automated something at some point because we created another loop from this using Infiltrator, which I'll play to you in a sec. But this loop by itself sounds a bit like this. And I've got the shuffle turned on, the global shuffle, just a small amount of shuffle to kind of give it that swing to the beats. There's a secondary section here that was made from this one using Infiltrator, and it's more kind of an effect to kind of use it as a bit of a riser here. We can take a listen to this one as well. Cool. There's a few other little bits and pieces in the drums. This is just a fill from a splice loop. It's just chopped up as well. There's another shaker loop, which I just use on top. This one, just EQ as well, nothing really fancy going on here at all. And then I used some sounds from Hive. Hive actually does a really great job of synthesizing percussion stuff. So there is this break that we used. So this has just been filtered, compressed with the mic E again, and then using the Moog filter just to filter it in and out into the track. This is used in the intro and in various other little fills later on in the track. And then additionally, there's this kind of noise loop as well. Again, just a bit of EQ. And then bounce down to audio. Cool, so that pretty much covers the drums. Last thing, we'll just look at the actual drums group here. I'm just running it through a bit of additional distortion to kind of just glue everything together. It's got the decapitator on it. Just a little bit of extra dirt to kind of bring it all together, and then it is running through Smart Comp as well for just a little bit of additional compression. I also didn't want to do sort of dubstep kind of production on this. I wanted a little bit of this organic feel to it. So I think the drums have got that sort of live feel, but they're still tight and still punchy, which is what I was really kind of trying to do, is to get the slightly more organic element of the drums and then mix that with the quite cut up, harsh electronic elements. So we'll move on to we've done the bass now. The bass is really just that sub that we included there. There is a few bass pads and stuff which I'll come to later on. Let's look at the synth parts now. So in the beginning, there's this kind of groove section, which is this repro. This is just a repro 1 ARP pattern. So I've got some automation coming from the RC48. This is the Native Instruments Lexicon Reverb. Bit of EQ, again, the Drama. I'm really, really enjoying this just as a sort of bus compression kind of thing. There's some of these presets really kind of bring out tones that I like a lot in this. It's basically preset settings here that you can then mix in and change the amount. You can get the full version of this in 1973 Drama, which is the full multi-band compressor, but I just find the results are really quick and easy from this guy. So that is the repro lead. That we just automated I think it's just a pitch shift actually on the actual audio. No, I think I used a tape stop plugin on that and then just bounced that. There's a little bit of saturation as well from the free saturation knob from Softube. So a great little plug-in this. And I love these new features that they've added in as well, this ability to balance out. You can automatically set gain compensation now, and it gives you a visual representation of how much louder you are as well. So very handy to have that. Moving into this section, that just cleans up. And this runs with the vocals, which we'll come to in a little bit. So I'll look at the other synths that kind of kick in here. So this is one of the sort of main themes which runs through the whole track. There's kind of this gentle sort of piano-y kind of thing, and then the sort of more aggressive synth section in the sort of chorus part, I guess. So this is just Pigments. I believe this is just a preset, Lost Sun. And just running through saturation knob for a little bit of saturation. I think there's some EQ on the bus here. Then from those same sounds, I believe this was Infiltrator as well. And I've basically taken those and run them through to create this kind of glitched out segment here. You know what, this was actually a separate lead, which is sort of square wave pluck that I used, and then ran that through Infiltrator to give it the different bit crusher effects. And then in the break as well, there's just an additional piano that comes through on top of this when the strings are playing. Very subtle. And that is the section with these strings. I'll actually play those together here so that you can kind of just, they make more sense all together. So there is a bass pad. This is one of my presets from my Hive pack that's on the website called Inu. I've used this in a few tracks before. So that's just providing the sort of low end for this. And then this is the string ensemble from the Native Instruments Complete Symphony series. And then just using the mod wheel, I've automated the mod wheel to kind of bring the volume in. But I didn't want it too clean, so this was processed. I believe it's been removed now. No, there we go. So we've actually processed this with tape Mellowfire, just to kind of dirty it up a little bit. This is the tape plugin from Arturia as well, from the FX Collection 3. Then we got just a bit of EQ cutting the low end off, and then I added some realm on top of that, just to kind of open it up slightly again. And that sounds a bit like this with those piano sections. And then those glitched out ones come in there as well. Cool. So let's take a look at the main lead section. So this is a lot of just chopped up stuff. Some of them programmed, some of them actually just taken from samples, cut up and moved around. Let's take a look here. I'm going to solo this whole section. I'll just run you through what all of them are. And there's a lot of call and response action going on here. So the main sort of Euro lead in here is this Hive patch. So that's just one of the presets from Hive called Fractal Lead. And that is just running through a little bit of EQ. I didn't want to cut off too much of the low end because there's a lot of meat in the sound that I wanted to kind of stick through, but it's cutting off just the subs. There's a bit of a neutron exciter on that. And then there is a slight bit of side chaining going on with this, I believe, shape box. But I didn't want this to kind of duck completely under the kick, so I've just come halfway down and really just taken the attacks off there. I didn't want this getting lost behind the kick. They're quite important that they kind of stand out. So there's just a really small amount of volume kind of going down there just to make space for everything. And that is obviously side-chained with the kick section. So a lot of this call and response happens with this Euro lead and then a response to that. So this one kind of goes with that. This is a sample from a splice sample, I believe, from BT pack. It's that really kind of distorted mono lead, and that kind of comparison between the two, or the difference between the two, you've got this really distorted, gritty mono, and then it just opens up into wide open space with reverb and this really stereo sounding lead that kind of creates a lot of interest for me. And then on top of that, we've got a few other little chopped up loops and stuff here. So there's some interesting groove stuff going on here as well, because I did a lot of the sequencing with the sort of global swing on. I opted to not actually re-quantize a lot of these. Typically, I would have actually sliced them out and then re-quantized some of them. I've actually left them straight in places because there's this kind of weird wobbly vibe that goes on. You've got some of the responses are straight and some of them are swung as well. So there's real kind of pushing and pulling action going on the whole time in this section. I think there's also a sub layer underneath this one, which is... So that's another sound from Hive, that one. And that just layers underneath the BT stab. Yeah, so there was also a prejudice from Hive that was cut up. I just used that first little bit. And that's a reversed section from that. That goes underneath this one. And there we go. So this is the initial call. And then you've got the responses. So the response, I kind of change these up every time that Euro lead plays. So I repeated this Hive again, and then I've got this little riff that I did. This is, out of Hive as well. I've bounced it to audio though, but this is straight over Hive, and then I think, yeah. So we're running the cold-fire distortion on this. Again, the mic E compressor and RC24 from Native Instruments, which is the reverb unit. Take a listen to what this one sounds like. So that's the sort of response lead there. And then this is also out of Hive. That's one of my own presets, this as well. That one I should be able to show you. So there's actually no filtering or anything on this. Everything's coming from this wavetable. It's just a really cool sounding wavetable. That is the, let's see if I can get the name for you, the additive morph sweep wavetable. And if you sweep through that, use that like a filter envelope to modulate through the wavetable, it gives you this kind of really nice digital crunchy bassline vibe. So that's the first response, and then they kind of vary from there onwards. You've got the call here again. This is sort of all of these, I think. So that one's the same again, and then we come to this one. So I just cut these up and rearranged them slightly differently. There's also the sound from Massive, I think it is. No, from Razor. Okay, so just a bass sound from Razor, which is doing this. Just over the top of these BT loop and Hive together. And that one gets the vocal as well, which we'll come to in just a sec. And it's really just a sort of variation of those. Some of them I just add in. There's also this sample here, which was just a bass pad, and it's been chopped up to kind of match some of the grooves. So that one actually goes later on in the track with these together. I use the same sort of pattern, and then you layer those together so you get this kind of. So that really helps with production a lot of times to kind of mirror those things in different elements of the track. So holding the note straight, but it has the same groove, same timing as those leads. So you can kind of tease things here and there with different elements. It just makes things way more interesting. Cool, so let's check out the vocals. So I just found on Splice a bunch of rap vocals, went through a ton of them just looking for something. And I found this one, which just, again, like I said, less interested in the lyrics, but just had a really nice rhythmic quality to it. So I'll go through some of the processing here. This is just a little bit of this deverb. There was quite a bit of effects. I couldn't find a dry version of this. I liked a little bit of the live feeling, but it's just bringing down some of the sustained elements where the delays and the reverbs are sitting on the vocal. Nectar is being used for most of the processing. There's a bit of EQ. I boosted quite a lot of top end. Compression, let's take a listen here actually. So compression coming from there, and then I'm also using the saturation, a lot of cheap saturation on this. Material for years, so here comes this Dan Cameo will live in the eardrums, building a material for years, so here comes this Dan Cameo will live in the eardrums, building a material for years, so here comes. Cool. And then there's a filter as well, which comes in later on in the break. It's just the bitwig filter, bit of resonance. Now there's two other sections of the vocals. This first one, where this first little drop is, it's the same vocal, bounced down with the processing on it, but then I'm running this through vocal synth. So I've put a gate on this just to kind of get rid of, with a vocoder, you want to kind of get rid of any of the background noise because it really kind of bleeds through. Then we've got a vocal synth. I've got a little bit of a harsh effect running on this. A little bit of time shift on the left and the right channels, different time shifts. A small amount of OTT just to kind of really kind of smack that thing out. And then the vocal synth settings that I've got here. It's running in manual mode, or MIDI mode, so I'm pulling into the notation from this instrument 6 here, and you can see I've got two notes overlapping each other, I've got this in mono, so the voicing is in mono mode with glide turned on, and then we're using a little bit of the polyvox and some of the vocoder settings on this. And the result with this is this little section here. And there you go. So that kind of leads you into the main section. And then later on, there's another little edit to the vocals. I wanted to get this feeling of the vocals kind of getting bigger and bigger, like somebody shouting louder and louder and louder. But obviously, I don't have the vocalist with me in the studio, so I had to kind of find a way to make that happen without re-recording them. So all I've done here is just pitch the vocals up using the standard Bitwig pitch shifting in the audio editor. So you can just check the pitches running all the way up to full 24, not quite 24. It kind of runs up to about 12, 17, 20 cents, or not 20 cents, 20 semitones. And it's just layered on top of the original vocals, so you kind of get this feeling of it increasing.
will live in the eardrums, building up material for years, so here comes. The Stan Cameo will live in the eardrums, building up material for years, so here comes. The Stan Cameo will live in the eardrums, building up material for years, so here comes. The Stan Cameo will live in the eardrums, building the noise loudly, the public enemy.
Cool, so you can hear some artifacts in there from the pitch shifting, but it kind of gets lost, at least enough in the mix, so it didn't bother me too much. But it's still, you can kind of hear those harmonics from the vocal kind of rising up and up and up, and it kind of gives you this really nice build in the end. So that's it for the vocals. Then there's a number of effect samples in here, nothing all that interesting, just some sort of kind of big impacts. And there was a couple that I took out of Falcon. I think some of these were from the Cinematic Shades library. Oh, so this is actually in another pad, the same notes that this one is playing. This features earlier on in the track as well, I think. There we go. So just a little bit of sub underneath all of these elements. This is texture pad. And then there's another Falcon sound. So yeah, there's that kind of sweep in the background, all just kind of ambient stuff. These stabs in the beginning are also from Falcon. Obviously, these have all been bounced down to audio at this stage. That kind of reminded me a lot of the soundtrack that Hans Zimmer did from Blade Runner. There's these kind of slightly pitch warbled stabs like that. A couple of scenes where they're flying around in the city with the Aerodyne. Coincidentally was where I got the name for this project from. So I'm going to start a new project with this name now. I think I can just try and do some more breakbeat stuff like this down the line. But yeah, so driving the Aerodynes, and they've got these kind of those kind of stabs. So I really like that sort of feeling of that Blade Runner-esque sound. Some of them reversed as well. Not a whole lot of effects here. I kind of wanted the track to speak for itself without too many sweeps and stuff. And I think it's kind of fit together really well as it does it. It's simple, as you can see, not a whole lot of stuff going on here, but just one of those tracks that just kind of fit together perfectly for me, and it didn't need a whole lot more than that at all. So we've looked at the strings. Additionally, there's this is a drum loop. So using the same Abbey Road Modern Drummer, just sort of programmed another loop here. And this is just done manually. I recorded some of it and then just tweaked it, just fixed some of the velocities and stuff. It's obviously bounced down again. And this was just an uplifter. I wanted kind of like a siren-y kind of thing just to really accentuate this. That's the build-up. So I'll bring everything back in again now, and I'll just talk about the arrangement, especially this build-up section. So we've got everything up into here. This basically repeats itself with a bunch of variations here, but I needed to do something to really kind of bring the track back in a big way, but without adding a ton of new stuff. I wanted to kind of keep it stripped back, simple, like a pop track. So it was mainly down to the arrangement to do this. you've got this section of real quiet here. It's very aggressive chorus section from bar 33 to 49 roundabout. A lot of this stuff is all just, those sort of cut-ups are just done in audio. And then you drop into this super chill section. It's like all the top end drops out. You've got this real nice contrast. Vocals get filtered down. And I want this moment of sort of clarity here for 8 bars. Gentle piece. And then into the build-up. And you have the sort of sinister feeling coming back here again. But the main thing with the build-up, and something I really like doing, is if you're not going to have the obvious kind of crashes and big snare rolls and whatever, I mean, there's a snare roll here, but it's having something unexpected. And one thing I love to do is, at the point where you put the drop in, to strip out everything and just keep the focus on one element, and that element's that Euro lead that we have there. So you can see the drums should kick in here. Instead, there's just one kick that kicks in on that point there, and one sub, and that distorted thing. So you've kind of got this expectation for the drums to come back, and then you have this bar where everything kind of pulls back, and it really has a nice, massive impact for that drop there. So you can see the vocals in this section, then take a listen to this first bar before the rhythm kicks back in again.
Ring the noise loudly, the public enemy.
Come back in again.
Ring the noise loudly, the public enemy.
And yeah, so just again, this section here, just pretty much the same, but I layered more stuff in places. Again, just mirroring a lot of the other stuff, so that you've got that dan 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 like that. These ones kind of mirror those same notes, but they're just like a little high pluck, just to add in something higher up the scale. You can hear how those all fit together. And I find that that's so important to kind of bring through rhythmic elements from other tracks into the other ones when you kind of layering stuff like this. Let's look at some of these other channels quickly as well. Again, some drama on the bus. I don't think we looked at the bus yet. Again, this tube. I really love this this tube drive from Arteria. It's got such a great sound. Now, some of the leads here as well, I clipped these a bit just because there was quite a lot of cutting up going on, quite a lot of spiky transients and things. So that's just clipped slightly before going to the master. The vocals, there was nothing really extra there besides some EQ from the Kirchhoff EQ. And then effects, nothing going on there. Nothing going on there. So yeah, all pretty basic. We'll take a look at the master channel as well, because there's quite a bit of processing going on here. That should be on as well. So we've got the Kirchhoff EQ, doing just a little bit of EQ to this. I took it slightly down on the tops. There was some stuff that was a bit too bright. Just bumped the bottom slightly. These are very small changes. You see, if you go to 3 dB mode, it's about a dB of cut on each of these. It looks like a lot, but if you look at it in sort of 30 dB like that, it's really, really small amounts of EQ there that I shaved off. Small amount of Gullfoss going on there, just kind of smoothing out little areas, and then running through Saturn, which is Yuhi's tape machine. So I'm just using the master tape preset. It's very slight. A small amount of this drama again, but really just kind of mixing in some of the punch setting, which kind of brings up the kick a little bit. And this, I mean, this is quite a lot of bus processing, but it just kind of worked in this case. Oxford inflator, that always just adds a nice bit of punch to stuff as well. And then this is a new edition. I just picked this up along with the Drummer the other day. This Vice MM1, this is fantastic. It just got such a nice tone to it. So I'm running on the wide preset here, and that's the limiter that I'm using. So I'm using this limiter to boost the track. This doesn't do true peak though, and there was a few overs. So what I've done is I've used the saturate from Newfangled Audio again, just to kind of clip everything off at the correct level, so you don't get any intersample peaks happening there. And lastly, just running into true balance and true level from Sonable just to check my mix. Obviously, this is not running correctly now. But yeah, so that's it. Not a super complicated track, this, but I had a lot of fun doing it. It's one of those that kind of just fell into place for me. So yeah, that's my submission for the Cyberpunk Growl FM radio station competition. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the track walkthrough and found this interesting. I'll catch you soon right here at Marula Music. Until then, take care. Cheers.